Hello. I hope everyone is doing all right. I think the music just stopped, didn't it? Oh, it was just a playlist. Okay. Uh, Make it slightly less hectic. All right. I'll try and look into the camera for most of this. Hope everyone is doing fine. Last time round, we wrote a character with the promise that we would be writing stories, not with that character because I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't have that character live anywhere at the moment. Probably still have it laying around somewhere, but we will introduce that character when we get to it. I got a new camera, so thank you, Chris, for noticing. The microphone is still the same microphone, so you should hear me just fine. But it's good that I'm clearly visible. It's good to know. Now there's an echo, I think. It's stupid. There. That should have fixed the echo. Alright, everyone's still with us? Hope so. Because we're about to kick off. And I think there's about a 10-second or so delay, so if I fall silent, it's because I was waiting for you to respond to me. I'm wondering if that is a setting that I should figure out again. No, well, we'll just do it like this and hope we get somewhere. Cool, cool. Yeah, definitely there's a bit of delay, but it's fine. I've been great. We're waiting or waiting. I'm not waiting on anyone. Wanting to try and get this thing on the road. Baby Emu is doing good. Mrs. Emu is doing just fine. So we're all happy, hip and happening over here. Looking to write ourselves a little story. And it's about 20 seconds or so. I figured I was looking at the countdown timer and comparing it to my live thing. I think there should be a way to shorten it, but I might have misclicked somewhere. It's fine. We will make do. I'll ask a question and I'll take a sip of my water, and then it wouldn't be so awkward maybe. This is all you need to know about writing stories. You need a beginning, a middle, and an end. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. When we're talking about writing stories or writing posts, it's a bit different, obviously, from writing your full-length novellas in some sense. In another, we look more towards kind of short stories, short formats, flash fiction, that sort of thing. But the thing is, what can I say? It will always have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And sometimes you might want, if it gets too long to be helpful to read, then you can split up that sort of stuff. But I mean, in the end, what is important is that it still engages the reader, and then this is kind of the structure that we're stuck with. So I'll just talk to myself about what beginning is, and what goes into the middle bit, and how do you want to end it, or what you want to end it on. I had a bit of an idea also to include you a lot into the into the proceedings, and you can always ask questions. Something that I don't have to tell Chris twice. It's always good to see, though. So thank you for being back here, asking your questions. Continue to post, not bad form. Even when you do, it's usually kind of an ebb and flow. So you would still have a a bit of an ebb and flow to the scene. And we'll talk about scenes in a second as well, because that kind of comes into play here. Because in the posts, or in the way that we do our writing, what we're really doing is we're writing scenes, and you can actually put that together and into a long form book if you would want to, but maybe not. The Lord of the Rings chat room. Currently, we're on Marvel and Star Trek games. There's a fantasy game. We can definitely talk elves and dwarves, and I think goblins, and there's a man in a suit of iron and all that sort of stuff in there as well. But not Lord of the Rings. We have to call them halflings, I think. We cannot call them hobbits. We might get demonetized. And we want that sweet, sweet YouTube monies. All right. Where do you begin? The beginning, obviously. There's a couple of different formats or things that you can do in order to, get things going, get things rolling. in general, when we're looking at the way that we write on our games, I know we're not monetized. It wasn't okay. Never mind. We'll call them hobbits. Yeah, we'll call them hobbits anyway, because we're not monetized. Because screw you, we don't want your YouTube monies. Uh, the I'm losing my train of thought. It's fine. A couple of things that are usually asked when we're looking at the method of writing that we do is a title for your post, the location that it's set in, and the timeline. These are kind of the regular things that we're looking looking at to establish um, what is going on or where are we when we write for um, a ship. We can have a look at the the deck listings and know that if I want to write for my doctor character, she's mostly in sick bay, which means that we're on deck E. You can incorporate all of that in there. But this actually goes into the first thing that when we're talking about beginning, we have to establish, we have to establish characters, and we have to establish setting, and we have to establish. I'm gonna call it conflict. It's not always a physical conflict, but it is. It is what drives stories, right? So conflicts can be external, can be internal, can be between two people. It can be all those different things. It's a very nice enterprise era website with a very original setting, with lovely people all here writing together. All the blue dots are actual people. All the gray dots are the voices in their heads that come with them. There's a lot of them. Anyway, so the beginning of your post and or your story, or whether it's a short story or a novel. If it's a novel, obviously it's going to be your first 2-3 chapters. Um, but if it's a, a story on one of our games, um, I think my music just hold on. This is going to be annoying. 1 second, my That's not what I'm looking for. There we go. There. My apologies. My music suddenly went through a different channel and it got me all riled up. Not riled up, but confused. If we're looking at a recent story entry, like this is the entire entry. This was written with 2 people, so we're not expecting everyone to put in 2,000, 3,000 words on their own. Actually, it really helps to write together, and we will actually dedicate some time to that as well. However, first things first, like the location here, tag is not an establishment of the location, and also the names of the characters here is not an establishment of the characters, because it doesn't really tell you anything about that location or about those characters. So we're going to tell you a bit about the location, right? It's a spot at the far side of the institute. It overlooked the lock. White panorama of dark water, dull grays, winter highlands. Claire is the first character that gets introduced in this particular story. Liked the lookout spot. Thought about putting a bench there, but then decided against it for fear of getting other people to use her favorite spot. So she stands there alone in a long black winter coat. So it establishes that she is alone, maybe lonely, even in the way that self-imposed loneliness, maybe because she doesn't want other people there. It gives a bit of a sense of she just wants to be alone at the moment, right? She doesn't want anyone else there. the place itself gets a bit of character. You know, it's always remained serene, only shifted when looked at over the centuries. The place that they are at. No, it isn't. No, what isn't? Sorry, there's a bit of delay. So if you're saying no, it isn't, you need to say what isn't. Otherwise, I can't respond. This also establishes this thing. It's been here for a long time, right? And this is something that has been established about the place that they're currently at for a couple of times already. But this kind of reiterates that at the start of this post. And, you know, the few years she's been familiar with, like all of this builds. Oh, okay, cool. I got you now. All of these bits in the beginning of the post establishes, you know, this is the location that she's at, but it's not just a patch of grass, right? It's a patch of grass that has meaning, that has, you know, a certain aesthetic, that has a certain draw to it. The the character that is in there, I'm just gonna ignore as I try and work my way through this bit. The character that is in there, you know, has a very clear kind of motivation to be there. She wants to be alone. Like everything about this introduction tells you that. And then we see something about that change. And what changed about that is there's someone coming in. That person coming in, you know, also gets established. It's a mysterious man. That one is quickly done. And you know, there's a bit of a description or a there's a lot of description establishing this particular character as well. These two characters have, you know, met before on and off, kind of throughout the times, but only when it suits either of them, right? It's very much a relationship of convenience, of you know, mutual benefit. We're trying to establish all of that here. Until we start with the introduction of, hey, what's going on. She's saying, thank you for coming on such short notice. I know you must be busy. He's saying, not as busy as you'd think, right? But immediately it establishes a kind of a tension of, I needed you, you're coming to me immediately. There's something in the air, right? And then we kind of kick off the actual conflict. I'm planning on doing something stupid, and then we need to kind of go with that. That's when we get into the meat of the post. So the first part is we begin by establishing the characters, establishing the setting, establishing the conflict, right? So we are currently for X-Men in the middle of a storyline where Mutant Registration Act is being introduced in the UK, and Claire is having none of it, basically. So what I wanted to do, and what I can also use your help in at a later stage, is have Claire speak to the press and tell them, or tell indirectly, maybe, the government to shut off. Probably more directly. Anyway. Clickety clickety, yeah, my I click away, right? I've heard of people spending hours researching how things work and say a track ship when establishing a location. Yes, not only location, but also all of these other things. Obviously, when you're writing your characters, you're going to do a bit of that research when you're writing the premise or the things around that setting. My character in on the Atlantis is an Andorian doctor. So I am neither Andorian nor a doctor, which means that whenever I write something from that perspective, I'm not a woman either. So all these things combined um, means that whenever I do start writing, I need to do at least a bit of research, right? So if someone comes in, say there's a post about someone coming in, I have, I've not been feeling well. Then the first thing I need to do again is remind myself what is the medical technology that they have on the Enterprise, right? Because it is set before some of the more advanced technology that we see in the Next Generation or Deep Space Nine or beyond that. So yeah, it makes it a lot easier to find with the actual Andorian rank. I love it. I absolutely adore it. Thank you for fixing that history. Even when I'm feeling blue, not Andorian. I lack the distinct antenna. Anyway, for Avalon, a lot of the things I do is kind of look into um, kind of relative distances, however boring that sounds, in regards to okay, where is Avalon located in our minds, and what are some nearby locations? How far is that? How feasible would it be to get back, to the institute or away from the institute in the right amount of time? Um, Also, we're in the 90s, so it's sometimes it's just research about what movie is hip and happening at the moment. What bands are in the charts? What music is going around on the radio? All that sort of fun stuff. Plus the fact that there is, of course, the animated series, where we shared the universe. I hope kind of I'm not rambling and kind of answering your question, Chris. Or maybe both. um, Greg's, there's two Gregs. I didn't know what a Greg's was until I started this game, but I know that there's two Gregs in New Crest Hill. Slang. Well, the good thing about my character is that she is all prim and proper, so no slang there. I think it would be mate. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So, getting back to establishing the thing. So, we're establishing kind of the setting slash location. This only means something to people that are familiar with our setting and as Avalon, right? So they live in a castle. It's on a loch. Loch. How do you say that? And it's connected to the mainland with a bridge. That's all you need to know. I know that a loch is a massive pond, but I don't know if I say loch or loch or loche. I know it's not loche. That's all I know. It's a big bucket of water, is what it is. Thanks. It's all I got. I'm sorry. Um, all right. So, what have we established? The character, Claire, but also the kind of faceless mass of journalists. We've established the setting and location. She walked down the bridge. She got up on a small improvised podium, and we're also already kind of injecting it with a bit of conflict with all the clickety clacks that come with that. And we're kind of referring back to earlier conflicts that have happened, to earlier interactions that have happened, to kind of showing that the people that are out there may not have the best interest in mind for the people inside Avalon. There's a hopefully we're establishing a clear divide between the two worlds. I'm going to capitalize the institute because why not? So I have a short statement prepared, after which Claire is open to answer some questions. And since I have you in chat, you might want to take on the guise of a journalist and ask questions after you've heard the statement, obviously, but also, knowing that this is the first day that the Mutant Registration Act has been enforced, and Avalon Institute is teaming with unregistered mutants that obviously the people behind the registration would love to have registered as sooner rather than later. So, with that in mind, start. Get your press badges out and be ready for your questions. Right. We're still in the beginning. Claire. I don't know why, but I think I get this. Nope. Okay. Cool. I always think I get that name wrong. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, it's a good question. We at how long? Well, I'll get to the. I'll get to that question soon. Um, this is very boring. You're just watching me write. So, yeah. I guess I apologize, but also you came here to watch me write, so enjoy. um, Support and all very good questions coming in from the press. All right, so I think we have clearly kind of established our beginning, right? And this is where the meat of the this particular post is coming in is when she's going to have to respond to all of these questions that are going to question her motives, her, the effects of what she's doing, and all that sort of stuff. And you're already giving a lot of great examples of that. So we'll start with our middle, and what we really do in the meat in the middle of a story is we are gonna expand on that conflict. There's gonna be a back and forth. There's gonna be someone, more or less kind of trying to pull the win towards themselves. And either it's going to get easier, or it's going to get harder, and it's going to, present you with more of a climax near the end. Right? So we're really building on the conflict and kind of stacking one thing on top of the other. I'm just gonna very quickly trying to address the elephant in the room. Why are you taking this stance of not registering when it is obvious that your status as a mutant, that when your status as a mutant is obvious to even the most casual observer? I'm hoping I'm representing the question that you've posed in the right way, Hestry. The I'm trying to figure out what questions there are. Yeah. All right. Paul is from the Daily Mail. Ooh. That's terrible. The Sun, the Mirror, all that. Were they around in the 90s? Determine that may. Anatomy. Never got a cup. Okay, I know what's on page 3, Chris. I think I know what's on page 3. Does that answer your question? History of world news? World news? News of the world? She might be off feeding the bunnies. Oh. There you go. I got your character just right. I will also correct your spelling there. There will be much resistance. Do you think there will be much resistance from the community in joining the register? I think the... thank you, Chris, for that question. You need to introduce yourself, right? Question... Question. There we go. I think the past few weeks since this new law was announced have shown a great deal of dissatisfaction within not only the mutant community, but also the general public regarding the constitutional registration of private and intimate details of British citizens. It will do anything to improve the safety of the British people. In fact, it might feel to some forcing an issue. Well, there we go. At least I don't think that's wrong. personal. I'm not sure she's doing herself any favors by saying that, but you know. Sorry. So, which one do you think got him the worst? Was it the Sun or the Daily Mirror? Daily Mirror, right? Given the clear danger, mutants pose to us normal people. Do you think that you're setting a poor example for the students you claim to represent? Horse and Hound? Is that a newspaper? Horse and Hound? Newspaper? We'll get to that. Sometimes less is more. Take a break magazine. I am not part Smurf. I think Smurfette is blonde. How old are the Smurfs? Oh, 1958. I need to check whether or not they exist in the 90s. I think the animated series that we all know and love is in the 80s. So we're good. We're good. All right. Sorry. I'm not gonna put that in there. It's a magazine. Okay. I'm just trying to parse the question that Christopher is given there. The register gives us information going into a situation. Okay. Hello, Andy. Welcome to the show. I'm just gonna take this one together with the. I'm gonna actually assign this to a different person. Calling horse and hound. Is that like a magazine for rich people hunting? Like if they're going around on their horses with the small terriers? Is that what that is for? Hey, I got that right. From context clues. That's nice. Did you agree to reserve with providing this information about potentially hazardous situations beforehand? I have also never seen Notting Hill. I know it's about a prostitute. I think. Hey Cam, what did they do? I don't know what you're responding to, so I'd love to respond back to you, but you need to give me a bit more context. No, you agree to this show will be providing us information about potential hazards beforehand. How can you be against a law that countless lives? It might be Pretty Woman. You might be right, Chris. It could countless lives of our brave service men and women. And we're just gonna read the plot of Notting Hill. because I need to know. A travel bookstore in Notting Hill. Divorced from his wife, who left him for another man. Aw. Shares a flat with Spike, flaky, sloppy Welshman. So kind of like Chris, just a bit less up north. One day, famous Hollywood actress enters the shop, buys a book. Yeah. Okay, cool. Oh no. Alright, so she's not a prostitute. This is Hugh Grant. It's like the first movie that he was in, or Hugh Grant. Sorry. This is oh, the Smurfs. They did exist in the 90s. Yes. I am looking, of course. I need to know. Uh, right. Well, it's a good observation. I don't know. There's no question mark, but I'm just gonna assume a question in there, Chris. There's a couple of things that we do kind of in preparation of writing these things, especially when it comes to character work, that helps actually establish how she would respond to this. So this is actually the primary reason that we ask you to think about and to write about a person's personality and traits, right? She's been well brought up. She has a certain bit of etiquette instilled in her from an early age, which gives me a bit of how will she structure her words. I know that her ambitions is that there's a full acceptance and integration of mutants into society, where there's no need for these secret societies and all that sort of stuff. So her mindset is already that there is no mutants and humans, right? These are just people. All of them are people, and some people have a certain genetic difference from other people. From knowing Claire, from knowing her personality, her traits, her history, her basic information in regards to um, who she was, how she was brought up, it's a lot easier. I say that, but it becomes more and more easy to just put yourself in the mindset of that person, right? So if we're looking at this sentence, this definitely rubs Claire completely in the wrong way, right? Because this pits these two groups against each other, and she does not like that. So she needs a moment to collect herself, which I already know. If she hears something being asked in this fashion, she needs a moment to collect herself. Once she has done that, she is going to focus on the part of the question that doesn't irk her. Right? Don't you think that you're setting a poor example for the students that you represent? No, I don't. And the reason is that she has thought this over. Right? She knows what kind of example she's giving, and she's going to be focused on that bit, not on the bit that is the clear danger that mutants pose to normal people, right? And then you kind of go from there. So I don't know if that was even a question or that, but I thought it was a good opportunity to go on a bit of a rant. We don't ask if you're joining our games. We don't ask you to hello Cipher. We don't ask you to write these things just because we feel like reading, the history of all these fake people, right? That's not the purpose of this. The purpose is, for one, we want to filter out the people that are actually interested in joining and actually want to put in the time and the effort to create these people, but also to have everyone think about, who is my person in this setting? Who is my person in this story? How would they respond to these types of questions? How would they respond to these types of situations? And when we go back to our joining page, one of the things that we also always do when we ask someone to join, we give them a scenario of, after a long day, if you have taken the time, taken the effort to go through all of the character bits and bobs and the information here, then this sample post becomes a whole lot easier. Because for Claire, if after a long day, finally drifting off into sleep and suddenly you hear she hears a student let out a blood curdling scream, it doesn't matter, all of the external um, uh, mask basically falls off because none of that is important. She's been brought up to give a certain vision of who she is or what she is. But all of that would immediately drop if one of the students is in danger. So that would mean that this would probably be a scenario as one of the few times that Claire would be out of her room, not dressed to the T's, right? So anyway, all of these things, all of that to say, all of these things go into trying to understand how this person would react. So if the Horse and Hound magazine says, "Don't you agree that it would be providing us, information about potentially hazardous situations?" No, because it's making an assumption, and this is also going back to the history of her. She studied philosophy. She has a bit of an idea of flawed kind of arguments, flawed logic, reasonings, and this is making the assumption that everyone born with the X gene is a danger to themselves and their surroundings, which, well, she feels, the Institute is clearly a counterpoint to that argument. We're still here, nothing blew up, we didn't, do anything untoward. So, immediately that gives me ammo for a response. How can you be against the law that save countless lives of our brave service men and women? I am not against protecting the people of Britain, but the way our laws have always worked is that any resident of these islands is a friendly, innocent, productive member of society until proven otherwise. This law assumes the exact opposite, which is why on a fundamental level I have to oppose. Anyway. Cypher Andy, we are in the middle of a press conference about the Mutant Registration Act. If you want to throw in a question that one of your journalists would ask of Claire, then this is your opportunity to do so. Because we're getting somewhere. We've been writing for about an hour now, not counting the digressions into Notting Hill and Pretty Woman. We're already on 1,000 words, so that's pretty good. This is the point where I normally take a sip, but I'm out of water, so I'm just gonna wait and see if there's any response at the moment before I continue. I have a very stealthily glossed over the questions that I felt were made in jest. Um, some of them are silly. Have you seen some of them? Who asked? Yeah, I was about to say, wasn't he who asked about the Smurfs? I thought so. Yeah. It's true that you're part Smurf. I have this to say, Donna of Take a Break magazine. Fuck you. Uh, Love to have you here. Just wanted to give out the opportunity. If Chris or Hestry have any non-Smurf related questions, then I'm open for them. Paul, your question was also very good for some exposition, so please don't hesitate to throw more in there. As we wait for that, there's we could go on like this is the middle of our chapter, or not chapter. Well, it's getting to chapter length, but uh, this we're in the middle of our story here, and um, um, we could, potentially we could go on these back and forth questions on and on and on, right? And it only stays interesting as long as they pose new dilemmas or new setbacks or new conflicts. In normal real life press conferences, you would have some news outlets repeating questions that were already asked or where the answer was already kind of clear um, on the face of it or are clear because of the statement that was made earlier, but they just want a new kind of they want a sound bite or they want a quote that they can use. But that is not interesting in a story. If you there's a a certain movement within writing circles that you need to make your dialogues as natural as they are. But if you listen even to me now, if you listen to someone talking, or if you listen to a dialogue being held, and you would write that down verbatim, that doesn't work. And the same thing goes for these situations. You sometimes when we talked about research as well, sometimes it helps not to know every little detail and trying to incorporate every little detail about a press conference. There's no way that a press conference or that a public statement of a a private citizen would play out like this, right? But I would say that this is an interesting way to have this conflict, to have this out in the open, to have the statement, have the questions, have the answers, and do that. That's a good one. Would be good to get a counterpoint in as well. Um, Need to think of a name for our pro mutant zine. Um, no, that's also the other part, right? You don't want to use this as a lore dump of saying, Claire saying, "But my father has written this law in a way that blah blah blah." Yeah, yeah. I'm not familiar enough with the U.S. gun registration talking points to be able to immediately kind of apply them to mutants. I know that there's similarities, but there's also a couple of obvious kind of diversions from that. In that it's a choice whether or not to own a handgun, and that is not the case for your mutants in general. Um, Back to the talking point of the refusal to register open Avalon up to potential hate crimes without being defended. Yeah. Gene text, Jenna text, Exene. Right. Would you allow fugitives from this new law to join your institute? Also, don't you feel that so openly opposing the Registration Act will open Avalon up to more hate crimes, seeing that the local community has already been shown to be hostile towards mutants in the past? Here we go. Yes, but in blue, in purple, right? She is. I don't think we can say that she's blue. Well, she's wearing blue. Maybe that's what you mean. Anyway, yeah, I'm okay with that. That's a lot of questions, Gerald. Thank you. The Smurf obsession. Yeah, there you go. There's everyone's voting for yes, but in blue. That was a setup. that is a question I have contemplated for Claire. Also, the clothes, the colors that would match her skin. She avoids greens because she doesn't want to look like the Hulk. Um, anyway, those who are generally seeking a safe harbor and are willing to put in the effort to improve our community are always welcome in Avalon. That's the first question, I think. Fugitives from this new law. I don't see people that are unwilling to register as fugitives. That wouldn't change my viewpoint on this. Those with criminal or terrorist intent, however, are previously stated already not welcome. Lighten the tone, and it doesn't feel. Yeah, well, okay. I'll include it. I will do the criminal question first, and then the makeup question, and then we can end it. We'll talk about a bit about our endings as well. Do you disagree with the entire, or would you be able to support a version of the law that would focus solely on registering people with mutant abilities that have broken the law? I think we'd be much better served by investing the money going into the genetic oversight units, into mental health, so that those disenfranchised elements of our society can be given the proper care as to rehabilitate them into productive members of community. There we go. Yeah, that's a nice headline. She also didn't answer the question of whether or not she was subscribed. Yeah. Yes. That is definitely what the Daily Mail would do. All right, so we've come to kind of a point where we want to kind of neatly tie a bow around it. There's a couple of things that really happen that in this particular case you need to kind of do in order to keep things going, right? And what I mean by that is, what do I mean by that? I'm just very quickly scrolling back. There's generally speaking, there's two types of scenes, right? When it comes to writing fiction, the one is a proactive scene where there's a goal, there's a conflict, and then it ends in a setback. This proactive scene, I don't think this kind of qualifies for that. What you also have is a reactive scene. That is a reaction to a situation, which is what we're doing now. There's a reaction to a situation. The dilemma gets thrown up. A lot of dilemmas get thrown up, but a decision gets made. Right. Either way, kind of this the things that we're writing here is more akin to scenes than it is to chapters. Like there can be a couple of different scenes in the same chapter, as long as you stay within the same realm, timeline, location, all that sort of stuff. But a scene in and of itself is always self-contained in that sense. So what we are doing here is we're writing scenes, and then if you have the right amount of scenes, then you can conclude your chapter and move on to the next part of it. The scene here is clearly kind of a reactive scene. There is a situation that is happening, a dilemma that gets thrown up again and again, and then a decision needs to be made. Thank you for that. For that very insightful poll. So in the end, what we want to do for this particular scene, so there's two things that we can do, right? We can make a decision. That's one way to resolve a scene. What was the other one I mentioned? I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. There we go. Reaction dilemma decision. That was the one that we're on. Goal, conflict, setback. Or you can end on a setback. Because if a decision gets made, then there's usually kind of a result from that. If a setback is made, then you need to get proactive about or reactive about the setback. Oh, this has set us back, and now I have to respond to that and do something about that. Right? That's not what we're going to do. So there's no setback. We need to make a decision. All right, and the decision is here. It's already been made. Actually, we're not going to do all of this. And the decision is, regardless of how many questions you're going to fire at me, we're not going to change our minds. Right? Which means that Claire will take this opportunity to say one last question. morals. What, yes. How is that? You are part of Cosmopolitan now, Chris. Also, like that, all of your characters are just either Chris or Christina. That's not true. That was Debbie asking about the Smurfs. Suddenly got the Eminem song in my mind. Fuck you, Debbie. Miss Cavendish. Our readers want to know. It's the only brand I know. Lipstick. That's not true. I know other brands, but I need to know how long they've existed. 84. Yes. Okay, I can. Yeah. I will say one thing: Mac is going to lose a lot of shares, or the price of a Mac lipstick is going. Is it a privately? Is it like publicly traded? Because as Estee Lauder. Okay. Oh, it's from '98, so it's its own thing now. I think. This is gonna cost. Or they could lean into it. I don't know. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, max stocks plummet. Yes. Definitely. Thank you all for your time. I'm drawing a blank. Urge. Ending a post seems so hard. Sometimes you just need to stop, Chris. You could go on and on, obviously, but sometimes you just need to go. Yeah, that'll do. I've achieved all the goals I wanted in this post, and that's that. I'm gonna go back home. The walk back over the bridge seemed less long than the trek in the other direction. Her load was off her shoulders as she had made a decision. Whatever the consequences, she'd have to live with that decision. The thing that helped with that was that she knew in her heart whether the government agree with that assessment was of course entirely different story. There we go. I think this is decent. We took some time. We wrote 1,800 words. I think we can be happy with that. Anything else before we wrap this up? Already a preview for those of you that are or are not on the on Avalon or following our story. I will save it here as well, just so that I. What I think is the hardest is giving it a title. Location. Avalon Institute. Yeah, I need to do that. But anyway, I'm just going to save that here. I can who specify character. Ooh, did almost go wrong. And we will we'll go back to that. So next time we'll see what we do. We could write more. posts, or we could write more characters. We'll leave that up to maybe some of you out there as well. But we will get back to you on that. Keep an eye on this space and keep writing because it's fun and it's what we all do. So rookie mistake. You'd think I'd learn after 23 years. We've not worked with this system for 23 years, but the point remains. Yeah, like I said, keep writing those stories and keep involving other people in this because it's too good not to. So, peace. I will see you all later, or you'll see me. I'm not seeing you actually, but you know.